a pranam mantram that serviced and probably still servicing still, needed some adjusting. So Srila Gurudev, Srila Govinda Maharaj, he made it more, I'd say, not only more perfect, most perfect. Because it says Bhaktivedanta Swami, iti namine. But we know it must have Prabhupada in it. One of the reasons Srila Gurudev started saying Bhagawan Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is because he said, everyone in the world knows when you say Prabhupada, it means Swami Maharaj, except for people in Gaudiya Math. For them, Prabhupada means Saraswati Thakur. But he said, the whole world, when you say Prabhupada, they know it means Swami Maharaj. So he said, I wanted to give some special, glorification to Saraswati Thakur that all his disciples will rejoice. And sometimes we would share, because where all the different places where it says Bhagawan and Bhagavatam, because I'd find one, I go, Maharaj, I just found another one. Bhagawan Badarayana, Bhagawan Badarayani, Bhagawan Drona, and so we just keep finding many times where some people objected to this use, so I just keep making a list of all the times that Bhagawan is used to indicate that someone has some extraordinary divine power. Because the long and short of it is, Bhagawan is a way of saying God in India. When you say Bhagwan, it means God. When you say, no, Aishwarya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashashashi. Yes, that's the definition, but it means God. Just like Ishwar means God, So that's why you're calling Bhagawan. And so Gurudev never does anything without sufficient vetting. Like it's not just, it came to him and then he blurts it out. If he says something this significant, it means it's fully vetted. But some of his disciples, followers, they could not accept that, or they're having a hard time digesting it. And one of them was like a disciple of Guru Maharaj, but who had sannyas from Gurudev, but disciple of Guru Maharaj, and cannot digest, and thinking that some others are telling some objection to this. So Srila Gurudev, he pulls out a copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and not just any, Guru Maharaj's personal copy of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Flips it, and he shows them in the marginalia, in Srila Guru Maharaj's handwriting, he's written Bhagawan Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhagawan Saraswati Thakur, in his own handwriting, and he's just like, do you accept that? So anyway, Nama Om, these are pranams written for His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, by Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj. Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Pristaya Bhutale, Swami Sri Bhaktivedanta, Prabhupadaya Te Namaha. Gurvagyam Shirshi Dritva Shakya Vesa Swarupine Hare Krishneti Mantrena Paschatya Prachyatarine Vishvacharya Prabhardaya Divya Korunya Murteye Sri Bhagavata Madhurja Gita Jnana Pradayine Gaur Sri Rupa Siddhanta Saraswati Nishevine Radha Krishna Padamboja Vringaya Gurave Namaha. I offer my humble obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is Krishna's beloved associate and who came down to this plane from Goloka. Taking the order of his Guru on his head, he is the Shaktavesh empowered incarnation of Nityananda Prabhu personified. He distributed the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra all over the Eastern and Western world, delivering and uplifting all fallen souls. He is the best of millions of Jagat Gurus because he is the personification of divine mercy. He has distributed the sweet nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam and the transcendental knowledge of Bhagavad Gita all over the world. He is constantly engaged in exclusive devotional service to Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhu, and Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. I offer my humble obeisances under Srila Prabhupada, who is like a bumblebee, always tasting the nectar of the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda. So, not only more perfect, but most perfect and beautiful. And with that, I'll speak again, but Maharaj, you can say something by way of introduction.
I can certainly say I give my full obeisances to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and all of us all over the world, we owe our Krishna consciousness to Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And not only has he told us about the holy name, told us about the scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, and so many books which we maybe distantly heard about in our life, but he is the one who gave us, at least we can say, he gave us Guru Maharaj and he gave us Srila Gurudev. So he's given us the continued shelter in this world, and I can just say that we are always reading his books. Often it is through the purports, and some of his purports are like miniature books. We have small books like In Search of the Original Source, which are quite small. Sometimes I think some of Srila Prabhupada's purports themselves can be a book when he's explaining things. But we are hearing from Srila Prabhupada daily, continuing to be our nourishment, as well as we are hearing from Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev, who Srila Prabhupada has given us by his pointing out Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Sri Ram Maharaj, and they're both pointing out Srila Govinda Maharaj to us all. So we are all here by the grace of Srila Prabhupada, and he has brought us to the safe shelter of how Gurudev described, the one channel of Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat. The umbrella, all stay under that same umbrella, and that umbrella has those three pillars of Srila Prabhupada, of Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev. So we are here actually a rare gathering, in the sense we have three disciples of Srila Prabhupada with us. And when it is the appearance or disappearance day of specific gurus, if we can hear from those who are their disciples, then this is a great treasure for us. And we know as we travel the world, it is, or used to travel the world, now I'm not traveling, I'm still in one place, don't worry. Really? I am.
What do you mean here?
Here, wherever we are, we feel we are in one place. We're not,
is always traveling.
we are not really traveling as such. But
With Vila Govinda as a resting place.
Vila Govinda as a resting place, and Thailand, Gupta Govardhan as a resting place also for us. Very next door neighbor rooms. Just a little bit of water and earth between the two. But wherever we have been and go in the world, then we see it is increasingly rare to be in the association of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, and actually increasingly rare to be in the association of Guru Maharaj's disciples, and increasingly rare to be actually in the association of Srila Gurudev's disciples. So when their particular days come up, we very much want to hear from those disciples. So Maharaj, if you give your permission, then
can speak something, whichever between you who would like to speak first.
We have established what I have long suspected, Srila Kadeva is far superior to
Hare Krishna.
which shows your superiority.
Hare Krishna. All right, then Srila Kadeva, you please say something in glorification of Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Om Vishnupade Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Tirabhav Mahamahotsav Ki Jai. It's very heartrending to say Mahamahotsav with Tirabhav in the same sentence, in a sense, because it always invokes, feelings of unbelievable gratitude And as Srila Guru Maharaj said, when the great Vaishnava is present and when he is not present, that will not be the same thing. So the whole world is feeling this, probably, as you say, the whole universe is feeling the separation of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev. That's not going to be over. But Srila Prabhupada, as you said, Srila Goswami Maharaj, that he ensured that we were always sheltered. He as we say, Jari Gora no Hoto, if he hadn't come, what would happen to us? We can't even imagine what would be our life. We can't think it. Because he was a huge shelter. Srila Guru Maharaj said, Shaktivesha avatar of Nityananda Prabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu came himself and, influenced us in a way that it's inconceivable to describe, really. We know the history of Srila Prabhupada's movements, but being in the presence of such a personality, whatever he said, it was like a drum that went on in your heart. You couldn't, it was, he made the impossible, the inconceivable, obvious. Whatever he said, you believed it. Everybody believed it. We're bringing home hordes of people to the temple. In 1 year in Chicago, there were 60 people living in the temple, and we just went out and brought home more every day. It's just his influence was not really, Guru Maharaj said, superhuman, impossible. What he did is humanly impossible. But the mood in which he did it, we can see from his writing in the Jaladuta, or something we can see, there was no demand. There was no demand that I'm going to be comfortable, I'm going to have all facility, I'm going to have this and that. He just said, do you want to please her? Do you want to please Gurudev, the representative of the divine serving potency, the supreme honorable, the supreme noble serving potency that is making you mad from her qualities? If you want to please her, then make me dance. That's the only demand. That I want to please her and you want to please her. So you make me dance as you like. I've come to this terrible place. This remote corner of the world. But there's no other demand. And he just walking around and not easy, never easy. Wasn't easy at all. 1 year, really difficult. Nowhere to live, really difficult circumstances. Then suddenly everything began to happen with that type of humility. Anyway, we know it wasn't just some big person with this big thing. He was a humble person who owned nothing and never owned anything. His entire life, he didn't own anything, including the message that he brought. He was the non-owner, the non-controller, 100% in the mood of Sharanagati. And he's telling us, don't think you own anything. You have the message of your guru, but it will always belong to your guru. And whatever he gives you for your seva, he may withdraw that. This is all his business. So, don't be the holder of anything, but be the honorer of whatever you've given to offer to someone else, or any facility you may have. It doesn't belong to you. Then you will always be connected with Guru. Always dependent and looking, what am I to do? And with what? But it's all his property. Nothing will ever be my property. And in this way, we're trying to go on serving him and desperate. Because it's the nature of the conditioned soul to think, I am the cause of my own doing. And this is a huge diametrical change of direction, that I am not the cause of anything, but I'm simply been given some drop of something that maybe I can utilize. So in this way, we're trying to take real shelter and be desperate. Be desperate for that connection forever. Anyway, you know, to glorify Srila Prabhupada, I don't know. Anyway, we got to see him a few times. We got to feel like he was giving us something to do, that he had some affection for us. And somehow or other, I don't know how. I really, truly don't know how. We came to the lotus feet of Srila Guru Maharaj because we had nothing. We had nothing in our hand that would say, well, you know, I got this. The only thing we had in our hand is Srila Prabhupada has affection for us, and Guru Maharaj accepted us, instructing us, and then after the disappearance of Srila Guru Maharaj, and before the disappearance of Srila Guru Maharaj, he made sure we understood. Srila Gurudev, this Srila Govinda Maharaj, if you don't like him, go away. You're not part of my mat. You are not part of my mat. You have to understand where this line is. If you don't accept him, just don't be here. Go away, make your own program. And so very, very clearly, we are making our adjustments and coming to the holy feet of Srila Gurudev and going on like this, but I don't know. So forever and ever we're thinking, there's nothing in me that would make me have this connection, but we're just desperately trying to hold on to those holy feet and keep learning and adjusting and bowing down and keep this bowing down program. So whatever is coming, that's divine. Krishna consciousness means, first of all, we think Vasudeva, Sarvamiti, everything is the Lord's will, the Lord's movements are everywhere. But that's the Nirguna plane, but Bhaktivedanta Thakur is saying, Tumi Sarveshwareshwara Brajendra Kumar. Who is the Lord of all lords? This Tumi, this sweet boy who is the son of Nanda Maharaj. So we're, bowing down in that way as we've been told, and trying to see the movements of the Lord and adjusting us and just desperate. Get desperate and stay desperate. Anyway. Jai Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Ki Jai.
Yes. As Srila Didi is explaining this mood of desperation, my conclusion is this is actually what will save us. If we are begging, we know that the Lord is going to come to give us aid. If that's what we want and we truly want, not some fictitious idea. And so that's continuing even as of today. And we definitely all felt some desperation at a time when Srila Prabhupada was first crossing the ocean, preparing to cross the ocean, getting off the boat and trying to establish something. It was terrible. The world was in such a state that we thought there'd be civil war in the United States at any moment, and it was all unsolvable. And then he came and revealed everything is his dependence on the Lord. And in that regard, we only have to be connected with him. So we didn't know how we came. And if you ask every of his disciples, they'll all say a different story. But every one will say we simply knew that he was in our heart. We could never be satisfied without a connection with him. And every other thing was a detail which would be filled in later. And as Madhusudan Maharaj was saying, Prabhupada is also the giver of Srila Guru Maharaj. For that we are so, so thankful. And also, when we first got the association of Srila Guru Maharaj, we felt that he's the giver of Srila Prabhupada, because we were destitute orphans. It had been a few years since Prabhupada's departure from this plane, and there was so much confusion and so much darkness, and many questioned, was it all just a temporary beautiful dream? But then through Srila Guru Maharaj, we came to hear Prabhupada's words. Guru is one, and he appears in an infinity of forms to teach you, me, and all others. And all of these perfect explanations of the plurality of Guru, and gradually came to understand what Srila Guru Maharaj is giving is not just telling us about our spiritual master. That spiritual master is also manifesting within Srila Guru Maharaj. Later, of course, within Srila Gurudev, and actually within all of those who are beautifully serving them today and speaking their true Vani. And so we understand that Srila Prabhupada had actually not departed. That was our feeling. When anyone has a beloved friend or family member that departs this world, it's so traumatic, it's so impossible. Then if you can find out, actually, they're not gone. There's nothing greater than that. So that's the experience that we got to go through by the grace of those who were helping us on the path to Srila Guru Maharaj, and later to Srila Gurudev, and coming to understand about this holy trinity of Vaishnavas. It is everything, and it perpetuates today. And we know that it will always perpetuate for any sincere seeker. So that's why we can say with complete assurance that everyone, the whole world today, even though today sometimes you may say it seems even more horrible, but still that care that the Lord will give, and everything somehow or other being under his arrangement, is still the most true thing and the most steadfast thing. And somehow we're caught up in all of that. And they won't ever reject us. We can choose to make a bad situation for ourselves, and let's not do that. Let's keep the association of devotees. The only other thing I was thinking to speak as Srila Goswami Maharaj was speaking of the pranam mantra, I thought from the perspective of when I first heard this new pranam mantra of Srila Prabhupada. And we heard a little bit about why Srila Gurudev had said there should be a more illustrious pranam mantra for Prabhupada, and that made a lot of sense, even though it was to us one of the most familiar things. It was home, we said it constantly. But this one, his words make so much more sense in explaining Srila Prabhupada. We knew who is Krishna's beloved associate who came down to this plane from Goloka. That's very beautiful. But when he says, taking the order of his guru on his head, he is the Shaktavesh avatar of Nityananda Prabhu personified. That was the most epiphanal thing that we had just known, perhaps from a little bit more of a sentimental viewpoint, that Prabhupada was everything to us. But this explained how did we end up with Prabhupada's care. It was because of the grace of Lord Nityananda, who is fulfilling the desires of his great devotee, Srila Saraswati Thakur, through Srila Prabhupada. And so he's telling all of us, go and be the extra hands and legs to help Srila Prabhupada. Do something, do anything. So many people couldn't begin to explain it, but that draw was irrefutable. So that was a very important thing to understand from this. And also about explaining, the original one said he is spreading the Hare Krishna mantra all over the Western world. And we were so grateful to learn spreading all over the Eastern and Western world. One of the first things that we heard from Srila Prabhupada was that he wanted the Americans to live Krishna consciousness and show back to India how wonderful it was, because India was crazily heading in the same direction as they saw in America and places with so-called success and advancement. And it was hard to understand when we heard Prabhupada say that, because all of the Indians who came to our temples, like Srila Didi knows very well, they headed up a program for Indians in the Los Angeles temple. They were so exalted. They were always teaching us so many things. And so why is Prabhupada saying this? Don't we have so much to learn from them? Cooking. And so less than one generation later, we came to understand the wisdom of this. And now we see that even at that time, their children were beginning to lose all respect for the greatness of their own culture. And Prabhupada's words did come true in so many ways when they saw and he did it just wholeheartedly, like everything that he did. How many days do I have left to do this? But showing that and taking American students, qualified or unqualified, but just to show. And now, of course, it's established all over the world, including India. And many people in San Jose will come to the temple, and Indians, and say, before we left home, our parents told us, like, just be the followers, just go to the people who are following Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, then you'll be safe. So they're also knowing that there's all kinds of factions that could mislead somebody, but they have this faith that Srila Prabhupada was establishing a safe and joyous vehicle for us all to prosper, and just to stay within that beautiful boat and stay in his shelter, be happy on the path, and then achieve success.
So I see this picture of Srila Prabhupada, and has a special meaning to me and preference, because it's the first picture I ever saw of him. There was a temple in San Francisco in Haight-Ashbury called the Sri Sri Radha Krishna Temple on 518 Frederick Street by Kezar Stadium. And in there was a Vyasasan for Srila Prabhupada with this very picture. And I preface this by saying, so this is in the late 60s, and for the most part, people, they have a stereotype about what is a guru or a spiritual teacher from India. And there was one person who was very popular at the time, and he would sit and twirl long-stemmed carnations or flowers and giggle a lot. So to give the impression he was in a never-ending state of ecstatic joy. Right? So they'd ask some question and he'd start laughing and twirling the flowers, and people thought that was like the stereotypical image of an Indian guru. And there was something I found annoying about that. Couldn't put my finger on exactly what it was, but until I walked into Srila Prabhupada's temple, the Sri Sri Radha Krishna temple, and I asked I thought, oh, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they always say Radha first. That's a simple thing. He made a book called Krishna. That's to the point. What's the name of this book? Krishna. Subtitle, The Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what does that book become known as? The Krishna book. And in there says that people see a book like Krishna, although it's unlike any other book. And they asked, because there was this beautiful picture by one of his disciples, her name was Devahuti, and she painted this beautiful picture of Radha and Krishna. And he said, when people see a book like Krishna, they ask themselves, who is Krishna and who is the girl with Krishna? That simple thing. Who is Krishna and who's the girl with Krishna? Radha and Krishna. And if you can ask yourself this question and begin the journey toward its revelation of its meaning and significance, you'll get everything from there, because you'll end up at the lotus feet of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Yatha yatha Gaura Padara Vinde, Vinde to Bhakti Prita Punyarasi. So when you do what the devotees ask you to do. Okay? Walked in there, they saw a picture of Krishna. Who is Krishna? I said, the most beautiful person. And I thought, if someone actually looks like this, I agree. I can't imagine anyone more beautiful than that. And the name Krishna, that's the most beautiful sound. No argument for me. So most beautiful person, most beautiful sound, that most beautiful person accessed through sound, Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila, Yang Shama, Sundarama, Achintya, Guna, Swarup. And there's the Vyasasana Srila Prabhupada, and you're asked to come over there and give dandavats, which I happily did, and make a little offering. And that time, some things they sort of made up certain things on the fly. And every time you walk past the Vyasasana, you have to make an offering. So they had some like basmati rice and one thing, and then the other. So you'd pick up the rice and offer. If you walk by, you have to do that. And then I looked at this picture of Srila Prabhupada, and it resonated very deeply with me. And I thought, this is Guru. Not the smiley kind. This is Guru Maharaj. Guru, heavier than the Himalayas. So deep, steeped in Krishna conception, unmovable by any other thing. And it was like a look of very deep separation from Krishna. And later Guru Das, who took the picture, told me actually it's when they moved into that very temple and on Frederick Street in Haight-Ashbury, and Prabhupada was just sitting there telling, all right, put this there, he was giving, chanting japa, but telling them what to do, guiding everyone, affectionate guidance and service. And he was sitting on that cloth. And Guru Das he's a talented artist and photographer. So he thought, put the books, he saw, this is a picture of a lifetime. He saw that with his photographic eyes and then went to get the camera, right, to realize what he was seeing. And we're eternally grateful to him for doing that. But that's why I thought, this is real, deep Krishna conception. And actually, I realized that in the last year that I was there, there's a God, speaking of Yatha Yatha Gaura Padara Vinde, I had some attraction to this verse, and so I would go to my friends in the Sanskrit department to identify them, to find them. And so it was for that, brought me in connection with one God brother, Kushakarata Prabhu, who, when I first met him, we're in ISKCON Press devotees had to wash pots at the Brooklyn Temple once a week. And so he was there washing pots, and I went to join him. And in the soap dish was an index card with a sloka on it. And I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm learning Sanskrit. And I thought, why not? Imam Bivashpate Proktam, the first verse of the 4th chapter. Proktavanaham Avya, Minas Vivasvan Manave Praha, Manur Ikspakave Bravit. When I met him like 30, 40 years later in Vrindavan, and I'm coming from Arma, and he's coming from another place, and we met each other. And I said, remember that time when we were washing pots in the Brooklyn Temple and learning slokas together? And he said, yes, there's only two positions available, in the Krishna consciousness movement. He's joking, but he said, pot washer or Sanskrit scholar. Right? And I said, well, you're both, pot washer and Sanskrit. And I said, what have you been translating? He said, everything. I said, but what remains to be? He said, no, I've translated everything that's available. So one such time, I went to him, because I had heard Babaji Maharaj singing this, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Nama, Kirtanam, Rama Rama, Ganya Ramya, Divya Chanda Nartanam, Yatra Tatra Krishna Nama, Dana Loka Nistaram, Prema Dama Devameva Nomi Gaura Sundaram. And so this mystically entered me, and I wanted to find the source. And he's like, it's the Prema Dhamma Deva Stotram of, Bhakti Rakhak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. I said, can I have a copy, please? Right. And he said, also Prabhupada's appearance day, and then subsequently, these days are coming. And I said, I would like to write like a astakam in his glorification. I can say the English, and then you can do the Sanskrit? And he said, yes. So it was called Srila Prabhupada Jayastakam. Right? And it's like, we're familiar with this. Guru Maharaj wrote Pranamami Sada Prabhupada Padam, which Gurudev said is actually, there's some famous slokas glorifying Shiva. They're in this metric sense, and the last word of the line indicates the first word of the next line, so he followed the system, and it sounds like this. Well, I might sing one of them, just Viroha kula sakya dasagamita mita loka gateshvara sokya praja braja damaga nitya sumitra jana Janata Pavana Prabhupada Jaya Janata Pavana Prabhupada Jaya. O Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, our ever well-wisher and friend, who left Krishna's abode in a mood of Vipralamba Sakya to increase Krishna's pleasure by reclaiming the fallen conditioned souls. Later confirmed by Srila Gurudev on when Krishna appeared, Janmastami, that we celebrate Krishnastami, and Nanda Maharaj has received so much wealth and Krishna, and they're wondering who will distribute this. And that Srila Prabhupada came forward and offered himself in this, for this seva. Number 2. Jaya Rupa Jateshwara Turya Guru Gurunata Pareshti Suburi Bara Bara Bhakti Pracharana Shakti Bara Bara Harakara Prabhupada Jaya. O Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. As Srila Rupa Goswami understood the intentions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his verse, Yak Kumara Hara, you understood the intentions of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who being pleased bestowed upon you all necessary potencies for preaching the bhakti cult and removing the burden of the world. 3. Pritu Markina Loka Naradamaka Makarandaka Bhagavata Prabhava Prabhavishnu Padamburuha Smarana Marana Bayahe Prabhupada Jaya. Remembering the lotus feet of the all-powerful personality of Godhead and accepting a nearly suicidal mission, you fearlessly boarded the ship Jaladuta, risking your life to bring India's message of peace and goodwill, Mahaprabhu's teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, to the Jaghai Madhai-like populace of Markina Loka, America. Vyavasaya Masubu Suba Mika Buddhipada Paraso Hridananda Sutot Pakrita Krita Jachana Gaurava Shasti Vrata Brati Vrinda Bara Prabhupada Jaya. O Srila Prabhupada, best of all saintly persons, all glories to you, who personify Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's explanation of Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. Your dedication to the order of your spiritual master was so intense and your prayers so earnest that your friend Krishna had to come down to work on your behalf. And when this was going through the proofing process, because they're going to publish this as the Los Angeles Temple offering, and then this time I was becoming known more and more as someone who was exclusively preaching about Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. Someone there objected to this line. Krishna had to come down to work on your behalf. So my friend, and he said, someone thinks this, and the proof that this is objectionable, saying that, Krishna doesn't have to do anything. Right? And he said, but the point here is Sri Krishna Karshini Chasa. By the power of devotion, the infinite comes under the control of the finite. Ahang bhakta paradino hyasvan tantra eva dvija sadhu bir bhakta hridayo bhakter bhakta janapriya. Although declared Swarat, independent in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, here in the 9th canto, Ambarish Durvasa, Krishna reveals, actually in the presence of devotion, I lose my independence. I'm under the control of the devotee. So divine power had to come down and work on your behalf. So they left it. Supurana Pararaka Prakasha Sudha Shuddhana Vali Bhava Subhasha Kala Kala Nasta Drishi Duti Hetu Subha Subhatirtha Bora Prabhupada Jaya. O Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Your emotional ecstasies, that's from him, stored in the treasury of the nectarine Bhaktivedanta purports, give light to, quote, persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali, because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart. You turn all places into places of pilgrimage. Parajivana jiva pramiti pramitya bhaya bhaya drishta suduskritinam nam ajita jitanavya nirishvara bhara rata radha bhakta kula Prabhupada Jaya. O Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, delighting your devotees and intimidating the puffed up demons. You boldly expose the rascaldom of modern atheistic scientists, unchallengeably proving that life comes from life and not from matter. Mati Shankara Shunya Mataligana Ganakhandana Mohana Shakti Hara Hare Krishna Surupa Vilasa Sura Suraveda Prada Prabhupada Jaya. O Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, who removed the bewildering clouds of impersonalism and voidism which were hovering in our minds by revealing the nectar of the all-attractive form and pastimes of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Para Krishna Paramrita Nama Rasa Rasana Varanata Prakasha Para, Aparadi Kulasru Taranga Kara, Koruna Kulahe Prabhupada Jaya. O merciful Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Upon anyone who sees you, the holy name of Krishna immediately descends, dancing on their tongue. Even the offenders who mockingly chant are later to be found stunned with a choked up voice, crying torrents of tears and pure love of Krishna. So when we were informed of the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada, this is pre-internet, so it was actually like a week later, where I was in Poland at that time, preaching. And we were, of course, devastated. And then in the midst of wailing, the devotee I was with, we got in a car and started making our way towards our home base in Germany. And so it's November, yeah, in Poland at that time, and it's like we heard, Sunyaitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me. Everything looked void and like no color. Everything was in black and white, like high contrast, black and white, and void. And as we drove on, I started thinking about what were we doing for the last week while preaching. We were feeling his connection. That was the first sign of some hope. Because I thought, we felt completely connected to him, and he left the world a week ago. So it must be ongoing. Right? We're searching for some hope in the midst of so much hopelessness. And when we returned, I just thought intuitively that there'll be a worldwide meeting of the devotees to discuss how do we go on in his absence. And much to my, chagrin, was told otherwise, that no, we'll be meeting in Mayapur. That means, so it's now November, December, January, February, and you do not know, but Prabhupada made some arrangements, so, and so the beginning of hearing these things, and so all the devotees, we should say, they just wanted to completely cooperate. This is what they're being told. Everyone just accepted it without question, more or less unconditionally. Oh, okay. Maybe with some disappointment, but I thought we were all gonna we should all meet, maybe we should all fly to India. And but that was not to be. And the meeting would take place, and Prabhupada did. I'm not questioning that he made arrangements. But one such arrangement was that after my disappearance, when the necessity arises to consult with higher authority, you approach Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And we'll come to that. But so we go back preaching in Eastern Europe, so-called communist countries, socialist, whatever you want to say. Means, Hungary, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, DDR, Poland, Czechoslovakia, all these places. And sometimes Russia. Right? And we'd travel in a Lada, that's our car, because we want to be disguised. So we don't bring a car from Europe, we travel in a Russian car. Right? And our habit at the end of the night, we pull over, we find a stream and park there on the side of the road, and when we wake up in the morning, we get out of the car and we bathe in that stream. Sometimes really shocking because it's freezing. But we're brahmacharis, and this is what we do. So I'm with this other devotee, and I have this dream, and in this dream, Srila Prabhupada appears to me and he says, "You should take sannyas immediately." So I wake up, throw the door open, and I start walking down the road. And then I'm realizing what's happening, where I am, and all of this. And so I think, all right, I should go back to the car. It's immediately, but it has to be practically applied. And so a few months later, and he said something interesting also besides that. And he said, "And Giriraj also." And I'm thinking, why in my dream is Prabhupada talking about Giriraj? But it was a worshipable god brother. But anyway, we fast forward to the Mayapur festival, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, bless his heart, I always look at Big Brother. He liked to listen to me sing some songs, and once someone told him, they said, but he left ISKCON. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj is very clever, and he said, but he made this recording before he left. He was in ISKCON when the recording was made, so I can still listen to it. And anyway, so he presents this to the GBC body and everyone there, and they accepted, at that time, they accepted as a legitimate appearance of Prabhupada. So this was approved, that sannyas, and then it was brought up. They said, well, if we accepted this dream as real, Tamal, he said, Prabhupada said, and Giriraj also, who we went early that year, and he had approached me, and I shared with him this dream that I had, and then he said, oh, that's wonderful. I could see he's feeling very devastated in separation from Srila Prabhupada. And I said, there's one part of the dream that is inexplicable to me. And he said, what's that? I said, well, Prabhupada said, and Giriraj also. So he was, I would think, appreciative to hear that. So then Tamal Krishna Maharaj told, well, if we're accepting that this part is real, then we're accepting the other part is real. So then both of us were approved for sannyas, and we took sannyas that time. I left early because we wanted to make an event out of this in Eastern Europe. Right? So in Budapest, in Hungary. And at that time, following the order of Srila Prabhupada, the GBC, they approached Srila Guru Maharaj to so many questions there about after the disappearance of Sri Guru. And so Jai Pataka Maharaj very respectfully, affectionately approaching Srila Guru Maharaj, saying, we want to hear your esteemed Upadesh. And it's Prabhupada's order, that's why they're there. This is not a whimsical act, but following his order, they're doing this. They're approaching Srila Guru Maharaj. And before they ask the questions, Srila Guru Maharaj starts talking about the disappearance of Sri Guru. And actually, many felt, like one of the deities mentioned, like being orphans. They were orphaned. And and we're trying to process this, and we're not equipped with the language of heart expression for what it was we were feeling. Unable to express that. So, but Srila Guru Maharaj, he started. doing that, with saying that we've been told, that the Guru is like the water, Shisha is like the lotus, and Krishna is like the sun. When the Sisha disciple is safely situated, sheltered, ashray vigraha, in the safe waters of Sri Guru, then the Krishna sun nourishes the lotus. Remove the water and the Krishna sun burns the lotus. So to what degree we are Guru-centric, and Srila Gurudev included this, and the Mat logo, Gayatri Muralista Kirtana Dhanam Radha Padam Dhimahi as the aspiration, but this central visual of Krishna sun, Guru water, Shisha lotus. So when we heard that, it was, you can say, like shockingly horrifyingly real. And he quoted Raghunath Das Goswami saying, Sunyayate Mahagostam Girindro Jagarayate Bagram Tundayate Kundam Jivatu Rahitasyame. That whereas Mahaprabhu said, Go Vinda Virahename, I'm seeing the world is void. Said Das Goswami says, I'm seeing that which was formerly the source of my inspiration. And what is that? Radha Kunda Giriraj Govardhan, saying, now Giriraj Govardhan appears like a giant python coming to swallow me. And Radha Kunda, that holy of holiest places, appears like a tiger's gaping jaws coming to devour me. So he's saying this void is one level, this is ratcheting it up to another level. Well, what was the source of my inspiration now appears to be antagonistic to me. I am that dependent upon Guru. And of course, who is Raghunath Das Goswami? Really, Guru said, it is a direct prayer to Srimati Radharani. Ashavare amrita sindhu mayi katanchit kalo mayati gamita kilasam pratamhi ton chet kripam ayurvedasha sikanaiva kimme prane brajena chabororu bukarinapi. My only aspiration is to serve your holy lotus feet. That means Radha Dasyam. He's saying, and if that is the reason for my existence, my being, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Ekeha Kurunandana, as realized by Srila Prabhupada. This is why I exist, to fulfill the order of Saraswati Thakur, Radharani's delegation. And if that prospect is no longer before me, then of what value is my life? And one thing, it's easy to mimic these words or to recite these words, but for someone to actually feel that way, like Saraswati Thakur, being moved to uncontrolled wailing, saying these very words, that is another thing. And what value is my life, and what is more valuable than my life? Vrindavan, where the soil is Guru. That's of no use to me. And it is a shameful thing to say, but Krishna, without you, you Bororu, without you, Bakarinapi, Bakari, the killer of Baka, the demon killer, not the young Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam, sweet, absolute, reality the beautiful, not so beautiful, unless he is beside you. And our aspiration is to serve your holy lotus feet and the Rupa Nuga line under the guidance of our Sri Guru Varga. Guru Maharaj is telling these things before they get to the first question. So, and many other things, but I had to go on at that time. So I am in Eastern Europe, right? But when the local person I'm working under his guidance there, Guru, GBC, he's a friend of mine, and very kindly, mercifully, when he returns, he says, someone's going to go through these tapes and they're going to extract certain things for the devotees. He said, but here's the tapes. You can just hear the whole thing, you know. And so I took those tapes and went up to my room, and then when I heard Guru Maharaj's voice and Srila Guru Maharaj saying these things, I fell to my knees and with this realization that it is unmistakably, undeniably the voice of Sri Guru. That this is my Guru's voice speaking to me. And I thought, I'm a hardcore Prabhupada disciple. This is perplexing. But it's unmistakably, undeniably the voice of my Guru. And I remembered back in Los Angeles, when I was as yet uninitiated, and where there's a Krishna show once a week on the radio, you know, on public radio, community access or whatever they call it. It's called the Krishna Show. Good name for a show. And we're in the kitchen, and the broadcast is there, and I just stopped and went, this is 1971. I'd read Prabhupada's books cover to cover many times, even though I was as yet uninitiated. But I'm listening, I think, this is amazing. This is one of the most wonderful things I've ever heard. I said, who is that? And they said, it's Achyutananda Swami. And I went, wow, he has such realization. They said, well, no, actually, they're reading an article written by Achyutananda Swami, but he's visiting Srila Prabhupada's godbrother in Navadip, whose name is Sridhar Maharaj. And really, it's Sridhar Maharaj. So that's when I first heard Guru Maharaj conceptually, was in 1971. Right. Some seed entered my heart at that time. So that, anyway, now this time, I hear his voice, and it's unmistakably, undeniably the voice of Sri Guru, and how to harmonize these things. And as you quote, Prabhupada saying, when we speak of the fundamental principle of Gurudev, Acharya, we speak of something that is of universal application. Thus there does not arise any question of my Guru from your Guru. He said, there is only one Guru who speaks to us through an infinity of forms, right? Enlightening you, me, and all others. And I have said this before, and I use that in the preface of the Search for Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful, to have Prabhupada introducing, or maybe in Sri Guru and His Grace. Might have used it, I think there, but yes. I used Shiksha Guru for Search for Sri Krishna. But I've said this many times that if I couldn't establish that that is legitimately a quote from Srila Prabhupada, most of his disciples upon hearing, most of any, not just his disciples, everybody's disciples, would say that it's Mayavad, it's Brahmavad, one Guru who appears in an infinity of forms. They would dismiss it out of hand as having not being what they've learned from their Guru in Krishna consciousness. Yet that's what he says. That's what Guru Maharaj said. When someone said to Guru Maharaj, well, you know, after all, Guru is absolute. He said, Guru is not absolute. He said, you mean then? He said, maybe in the eyes of their disciples, but he said, so many Gurus and they're all absolute. That is impossible. He said, just like Mad Guru, my Guru is Jagat Guru. Guru Maharaj does not subscribe to that theory. Right? He said, just like someone may say, every child has the right to say, my mother is the best mother in the world. He said, but she will not be judged according to the loving eye of her child, but against the absolute standard of motherhood. So any guru, they will not be judged by the loving eye of their disciple, but against the absolute standard of Guru. So when Guru Maharaj said, there are no big mantras for big gurus, little mantras for little gurus, someone said, see, he's saying there are no big gurus and no little gurus. They're just gurus, the guru. That's not what he was saying. To put it in a way that may be more easily understandable, he's saying there are big gurus and there are little gurus, but there's only one mantra. Whether it's for a big guru or a little guru, Oma Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. But the idea, there are not big gurus, that is not reality. You know, there's Srimati, she's the Ujjvala Rasa Acharya. There's Lalita Vishaka, Rupa Rati. There is a line of descent. There is in fact a hierarchy of gurus. And some superior, and they each have their superior, and she's the ultimate superior. Right? So, and what does it say? Braja Lokanusar Siddha Sadhaka Rupena Chatrahi Braja Lokanusarata. Yeah. That when in some advanced stage in that upper world, they find the particular service of a particular servitor that resonates in their hearts, and they put themselves under their guidance. It doesn't say who that is. It doesn't say, and of course that's your Diksha Guru. Right? I know these are sensitive topics, but we're talking, there are 3 Prabhupada disciples here. Right? How can we be members of Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math and be legitimately Prabhupada disciples? How could hardcore Prabhupada disciples come to accept Srila Guru Maharaj as their guru? Did that mean, as they're accused, they were being unfaithful to Prabhupada? Why did you leave Prabhupada? Don't you accept Prabhupada? Someone said to me once, I don't know, how do you do it? Is it 50% Prabhupada, 50% Sridhar Maharaj? I said, no, it's 100% Prabhupada, 100% Sridhar Maharaj. He said, how is that possible? I said, it's inconceivable. I sometimes call this group the trifecta. What does trifecta call? I mean, it's a manufactured word. It means 3 times perfect. So in this group, you have those who accept Srila Prabhupada as their guru, Srila Guru Maharaj as their guru, Srila Gurudev as their guru. Are they deviant or unfaithful to any one of them by accepting any one of the others? Right? Are you non-accepting or non-faithful to Sanatan because you aspire for Sri Rupa Manjari Pada? Is that an insult to Sanatan Goswami Prabhu? Demeaning in some way to him? Raghunath Das Goswami is the Prayojan Tattva Acharya. When Kaviraj Goswami says, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Jara Ash Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das, will someone go, oh, why he's not mentioned? Is there something lacking in his conception? Or is his conception perfect, most perfect? So this is serious. This is life and death. This is more important than life and death, right? Because that will just keep happening. But you don't always get the connection of the lotus feet of pure Vaishnavas, pure Vaishnava agents, Sudurlabha Bhagavata Loke. That is rare. You'll get another birth. You don't have to worry about that. Like Gurudev would say, sometimes presented something and he'd say, nice to eat. He goes, certainly I will take another birth because, you know, but whether I will get the chance to have this again, no. So I'm taking this now. He, play in that way. So, to this trifecta, the acceptance of Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, and Srila Gurudev, to praise one is not to diminish the prestige of the other. And those who assert such things are on the worst, lowest rung of Kanishta Adhikari. And we know Gurudev used that term before. That is Kanishta vision. Right? That type of blinders, Guru Maharaj said. In their eagerness to glorify one, they've eliminated all the others. And it goes on, and it goes on in each generation. In their eagerness to glorify one, they dismiss all others. That is not the spiritual world. Right? This trifecta, is it something real? You know, he gave the caption, the Holy Trinity, right, is to praise one, to diminish the prestige of the others. We see the three of them happily engaged in this exchange, and Babaji Maharaj is there, and others are there. When I started seeing Guru Maharaj as unique, and not a clone of Srila Prabhupada, but unique, and I was like beyond delighted. And I said to him, I said, I didn't know it could be like this. And Gurudev and he were there, and what I'm alluding to, I was saying like, oh my God, like, and then Guru Maharaj is telling me, he's saying, Sudurlabha Bhagavata Hiloke. In this world, the Maha Bhagavata is a rare phenomena, we can say, occurrence. He said, but that world of which we aspire to, everyone there is a Maha Bhagavata. Vaikuntya Pritivyadi Sakala Chinmoy. The soil is Guru. How can you walk on that soil? It's Guru, only out of service necessity. So if someone's going to say, in their devotion to one, they eliminate the others, it's faulty. It's not real. It's not true. It's the lower waters of Kanishta Adhikari vision. You only make progress. Madhyam position means when you accept the devotees. Right? Kaviraj Goswami said, when his brother dismissed one, that was his fault. Right? And Kaviraj Goswami got praise for accepting the entourage. Pranamami charanantika paricharaka sahitam, in Guru Maharaj's prayer. We don't worship Guru in isolation, but with his entourage. So we know, when Ban Maharaj came out of the room of Saraswati Thakur, hearing so much praise and sharing that with the others. How much praise Prabhupada is giving to me. And Guru Maharaj in the corner saying something, and the other devotees start giggling and laughing. And he didn't know Sanskrit, as we mentioned before. He's not a Sanskritian. He knew something. I'm sure he knew infinitely more than I do, put it that way. But not a Sanskritian per se. And he goes, what is he saying? And he said, he's quoting the verse in the Rasa Leela that said, each gopi thought Krishna's was hers and hers alone. So that's all right, right? But to dismiss the others, that can be fatal, right? Why is Mirabai rejected? Because she doesn't recognize Radharani and the superior servitors, but she's mad in praise of Krishna, right? So we came from a place where it was considered offensive to glorify anyone other than Srila Prabhupada. But I thought, when I came to the lotus feet of Srila Guru Maharaj, I thought, if he is not what everything I've heard from Prabhupada about what a pure devotee is, on every page of every one of his books, if he is not that personified, then I don't know what Krishna consciousness is. Right? So I decided by the way, so I made on those tapes, the first thing I did was I went into another room, and I can still say, I'm at the Schloss Reddershof, and I said to someone like, have you got a stereo many-to-many plug? And they go, yeah. I go, can I borrow it? I copied those tapes. And I realized also, I'm not going to tell that person to the depth that Srila Guru Maharaj has entered my heart. I'm not going to share that with him, because he won't be able to accept that or appreciate that. So when he said, I said, oh, I liked it. I gave him the tapes back. Then I had my own copies. So that, and then I'm like picked up from there and dropped into the world headquarters of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And from there, I began preaching about Srila Guru Maharaj. Right? And many devotees were very delighted. Others were not. They were alarmed, saying that devotees are inspired. So they knew something was wrong. And then one of my godbrothers came to me and he said, I really appreciate your sharing all these things you're hearing from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. By this time I had visited him some more tapes and told the story. Babaji Maharaj took us upstairs to meet His Divine Grace for the first time. First words ever heard from his lotus mouth, we must convert ourselves into a proper medium. And many other wonderful things. So now I have like a little arsenal of tapes. Siddhanti Maharaj, who was Chidananda, asked me for copies, which I gave to him and a few others. But so this godbrother comes and said, if you keep preaching like this, I'm really inspired. I just want you to know, maybe you don't know, because you're really wrapped up in it, like, they're going to kick you out if you keep doing this. And actually, I didn't know. And I went like, oh, okay. All right. And then I had a dream about Srila Prabhupada. I approached him on his Vyasa-san and I said, Srila Prabhupada, how am I to understand my relationship with you and my relationship with Srila Sridhar Maharaj? And he said, you should accept him as your spiritual master. I have trained you thus far and he will do the remainder. And I wrote that to Guru Maharaj in a letter with some other things and anticipating my exit. So say that was around May of 81, and by August of 81 it happened. And I sought eternal shelter at His holy lotus feet in August of 81. And when I arrived there, before I left, as they felt that my dear friend there was under my influence. That would be bad. But if you say, but I'm preaching about Guru Maharaj, then it should be thought of in another way. But I've been hearing this my whole life, that I'm a bad influence. Since I was a teenager in ISKCON, and here I hear it all the time. I'm a bad influence. Right? So I go to Guru Maharaj, and before that he was telling me basically, don't be an anti-party, do relief work, kind of like work within kind of thing. Oh, and so by the time I leave there and I'm going to Guru Maharaj, they're meeting to decide what to do with me. And the first thing was, he should not be allowed to return to Los Angeles. They go, it's an LA problem. Right? Then someone thought, and they go, well, what about, Northern California? And they said, he should not be allowed to return to California. It's a West Coast problem. Right? Then they thought about it more, and they said, he should not be allowed to return to America. The rest of the society is doing fine, just America has some problems. Then they thought, well, then there's Australia, this, that. And so they finally came up with this. He should not be allowed to return to an English-speaking country. Meaning that if someone understands English, they could be converted. But if they didn't understand English, then they were relatively safe. Right. That's what, and by the time I got there, Guru Maharaj had already heard. And so I arrive at the Navadip train station, get on a rickshaw at night, and the rickshaw, the wheels, a little candle in the front. They used to have, and there's like the evening jasmine in the air, and I'm going to the mat, and there's the moon shining, and Srila Guru Maharaj is in his plantation chair. And I approach His Divine Grace and His Holy Lotus feet, and he says, he'd never heard the expression kicked out. We know he and Guru, they always use oust. He goes, I didn't catch it, Nimai caught it. Said he was kicked out. You've been kicked out. This is August of 1981. And he first wants to see if there's fight in me. Do I want to fight this? And I'm saying, Maharaj, no, I'm finished. I'm done. Because he knows how the system works better than they do. He starts going through the options, and I'm going, Maharaj, no. Then when he realizes that I've come to just be with him permanently, that's when he says, society consciousness and God consciousness. When society consciousness hinders the development of God consciousness, it should be left away. So, then, this day, I think, is it this time? No, Appearance Day of Prabhupada comes after coming. And he's saying, Bhakti Charo Swami, who's an old friend of mine, saying like, Guru Maharaj and Guru, they say, just go to Albert Road, as a gesture of civility and, go to that temple for Prabhupada's Appearance Day, I think it was. And remember this lady, Kishori Balaba? Something like that. Bengali lady. She cooked for days. Her sari was black from those coal pails. She made 216 preparations herself. Right? And that was interesting because all the people come to Albert Road, it's small, so we distributed all the prasadam once and then did it again. They do like two, And then as it turns out, there was nothing left for the servers. But we were so inspired by serving everybody. It really didn't bother us. We're laughing about Charo Swami. It's a great sense of humor. And he used to make this thing, unspiced khichdi, and we just eat it with salt and ghee, and he called it Monk's Delight. He said, Maharaj, I'll make some Monk's Delight. And we're, yeah, okay, well, And then he goes away, and then he comes back and he goes, Maharaj, you got to see this. And we go to Prabhupada's room, these big, tall friends, and open the doors, and there's 216 pots. That wasn't distributed. The mass prasadam was distributed. The 216 that she made were still there. But then I make a phone call to America, and I can understand the disinformation campaign has begun. It's over. So I go back to the mat, my head is reeling, and Guru Maharaj told me at the time, Dear Krishna Maharaj, take prasadam and go to sleep. And I'm going, blah, 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 blah. My head is spinning from here. Take prasadam and go. And Gurudev gives me like begun bhaja, some hot puris, ate that, go to sleep, wake up, forgot all the other stuff. Because Guru Maharaj is on his chair, plantation chair, saying, Gopinam kuchukum kumain vichitam kimbasha asharana. Saying, Narhar Sakur Thakur, he is a very peculiar devotee. He says to Krishna, I don't recognize your sannyas. You think, what? To Mahaprabhu. Why? What? He said, come on. I know who you are. Krishna. Krishna, that Krishna from Vrindavan of Radharani and Braja Gopis, he's become a sannyasi? Who will believe that? I don't, no. And he said, no, but look, the saffron cloth. Oh, you know why your cloth is saffron? It's the kumkum bosom, her name is Kumkum. The gopis wear Kumkum. From contact with him, your cloth has become dyed saffron. So you're a sannyasi? No one will accept such a thing. So, and Guru Maharaj is laughing, slapping, and I thought, I've come for this. This is what I've come for, not these other things. So just like evil birds, it just flew off the branches. And after some time, I felt that I'm like making all these tapes, all this nectar is coming to me from Guru Maharaj, and I have God brothers and God sisters going away disappointed, lying, dying, that I should return to America and start promoting Srila Guru Maharaj directly. And this Bengali Sarvabhavana Prabhu hears about that, and he goes to Gurudev, and Guru Maharaj says, Dear Krishna Maharaj thinks you're kicking him out of the mat. And they go like, what? He thinks you're kicking him out of the mat. He's getting ready to go back to America. And this is like after a month or so. And there's also many important things happen during that time also that I won't describe now. But, so, and they go, why? And he said, he gave some example. The mother bird pushes the baby bird out of the nest. It's time to fly on, And Gurudev and Guru Maharaj go, very nice example. And they call me to him, and I go to see Guru Maharaj, and he's tests you for, and he says to me, he goes, I hear you're very depressed. Me? And like, jacked up in the sky, Charles Swami said, you're arguing during your sleep. And I said, what I'm saying makes sense? He said, yeah. I said, then it's all right. So he said, you're very depressed? And I said, I'm like, whatever the opposite of depressed is, I'm that. And I said, I am thinking that how I'm going to sit here and all of this will be my exclusive property, what I get from you. And maybe some God brother or God sister will visit me once a year, saying, hey, whatever happened to dear Krishna Maharaj? He lives in Navadip at Srila Sridhar Maharaj's mat. Oh, really? Stop by and visit, and they'll say, you should hear this. The other day, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said this or that. That'll be it. That's what I thought it was going to be, actually. Not a worldwide, no. I thought that's what it's going to be. He'll probably reinitiate me, something, and I'll just be a forgotten person. Someone will stop by every now and then, and I'll share something that I've heard from him or that I'm transcribing. As Guru Maharaj said to me, so you're going to make recordings of me and transcribe. He said, as your life's engagement, yeah. And he said, I tried to collect the maximum from Saraswati Thakur, and I did, but my tendency for distribution was not so great. You should collect from me and distribute. Collect from me and distribute. That's what you should do. And that's what we're still trying to do. So anyway, I told them about this inspiration I was getting to return to America and just start openly preaching about him. Meaning I would no longer be a member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which was devastating to me personally, something I'd never imagined in my worst nightmare. But when I told him what I'm going to do, then he turned. He said, I also approve of your returning. What, we're going to sit by idly? They're going away disappointed, lying, dying, and separated from this nectarine ocean from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yes, go there and do really save the people with this nectarine substance, right? And reminds me of something. So, and then I told him that about, and I said, well, now I see like, oh, he's green lighting that, we're on board. And I said, I would also like to, with these tapes and the transcriptions, I would like to make it, and he had books, yes, there should be public, like he's, everything I'm suggesting, he's finishing my sentences. Right? So, I want to find this one thing. So I do, with his full authorization, I go there, right? You can say fully empowered by him. And around the time with Brahma Prabhu, he's the unsung hero of this. He fueled everything when I got a call from America realizing everybody had turned on me, betrayed me, that I heard him say off to the side, I'm still with you, Maharaj. That saved my life. Because I had nothing. Because I had $128, and on my way out, I wanted to give 111 to Guru Maharaj, and for a moment, and I thought, a voice like came out of the sky and said, if you give him 111, you will not be a loser. So I gave him the 111 and I kept the 17. But then when I arrived, Brahma was there and he financed all of this, and I'm eternally grateful to him for that. And he later Bhaktapriya and Jayananda, but he in the very beginning. And so when I'm there, and this is when Guru Maharaj first authorizes me to initiate on his behalf, and say 9 months later he will authorize me to initiate, saying I'm transferring the responsibility to you. You initiate locally, you'll bring any special person to me. When Srila Govinda Maharaj would be asked about whether or not I would be a Ritvik for him, he said, he is already directly empowered by Srila Guru Maharaj to initiate. But if he will initiate on my behalf, I will be very happy. So I'm there, we've just acquired this place, I'm writing the so-called 17-page paper, which will become the Guardian of Devotion pamphlet, because I needed to set the record straight on the actual relationship between Prabhupada and Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And Guru Maharaj, he writes me this letter. My dear Krishna Swami Maharaj, I have received your 2 or 3 letters and noted the news therein. We are encouraged and pleased that you are helping the helpless with such firmness and courage. Your spiritual master, our revered Swami Maharaj, preached about the noble and magnanimous mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from door to door in the Western world. It is intolerable that anyone may be separated from that nectarine ocean, which was inaugurated by that great apostle of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Swami Maharaj. As a messenger of that great Messiah, directed by your sincere conscience, you are advancing with firm step to help the helpless, and that is encouraging to us. We have no doubt that Srila Swami Maharaj is doubtlessly satisfied with you, as also we are. We have no doubt that you will be blessed profusely by the Divine Lord with all his paraphernalia. Your appropriate quotation from the scriptures aroused in our heart the feeling that the scripture itself is coming down to show its inner meaning. Otherwise, to collect the correct essence of the scripture from different types of instructions therein is generally impossible. So you are extremely blessed. The assistance and resources necessary for your service cannot but be supplied by the Supreme. I pray to the Supreme Lord for your success in your life's mission. Krishna Matir Astu, Srila Bhakti Rakak, Sridhar Dev Goswami. So it's inappropriate to, praise yourself, what to speak in front of the deities or whatever. But the reason I'm mentioning this is to show for those who will question whether or not it's possible to worship Srila Prabhupada fully and to accept and worship Srila Guru Maharaj fully and to accept and worship Srila Gurudev fully in his world, the world that we aspire to and that we want to offer ourselves in service to. It's not only possible, it's a prerequisite. You cannot enter there if you cannot accept all of them in all of their glory. Right? So with their blessings, sometimes Guru Maharaj would say, perhaps our Guru Maharaj and your Guru Maharaj, they're looking down upon this transaction and happily approving. So particularly on this day, because it was in separation from Srila Prabhupada that we approached the lotus feet of Srila Guru Maharaj. And as indicated by Srila Guru Maharaj here, he's using words like, doubtlessly he is pleased with this movement that you have begun. And it was a movement begun to start promoting exclusively Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj. And of course, that must include Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj. But that world that they represent is populated by, higher than the highest section of liberated souls, the eternal associates of, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, what do we say, Sri Gauram Mandala Bhumi, Jayabhat, Chintamani Mani, and what is the other one? About the associates of Mahaprabhu? Nitya Siddha Kori Mani, Gaurangara Sange Jani Nitya. They're all eternally liberated associates. What do we have in these books that we studied? I have to revisit again the first two words of Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam. What are they? Bande Gurun, plural. Bande Gurun. Bande Hum Sri Guru. That's the first two words of Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam are Bande Gurun. Isha Bhaktan, Ishan, Isha, means I worship gurus, the guru principle, and the infinity of forms in which it is manifesting. Right? When Srila Saraswati Thakur, after his disappearance, and they're out preaching in Gaudimat, and some man came and said, don't mind it, but I don't find anyone among you who is his equal. And Guru Maharaj said, certainly that's true. He said, but do you believe he was successful in his mission? Right? You do, and you believe. He successfully came to give something, and he gave that thing. So no one is his parallel, but at the same time, you cannot deny that what he came to give, there are so many receivers of that. We say Prabhupada spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, and rightfully so. We're talking about divine power coming down and working on it. That means that there are recipients of Krishna consciousness. And Srila Gurudev would say, quoting one of Srila Guru Maharaj's godbrothers, and it may be 1%, 5%, 25%, 50, 75, 100. That's for the spiritual experts. And the Vishwanath Chakrabartis, Thakurs of the world, who can do this fine sort of analysis. But the default position of the devotees is, as Gurudev said, I believe everyone, that is my fault. And I said, no, Maharaj, that is your good quality. And what he meant was his default position is giving the benefit of the doubt. Right? Giving the benefit of the doubt. Right? Because of the only other option is to be suspicious of everyone. Like the 60s in America, there was a saying, what was it? Question authority. We were raised on that mantra. Whoever is authority, we question them. Question the validity of what they're saying. How far is it true? All those things. And there's a place for that. But Gurudev said he'd rather be a believer and be betrayed than to be a disbeliever in everyone. Right? And what did he say? When people were like pushing him to come down on someone who everyone basically knew was doing wrong, he'd say, I am thinking if someone is doing wrong, but they are sincere, then Krishna is giving inspiration from within for correction. Right? And people are always talking about his will, and he knows very well. And what was the name of that hospital where he's in the bed making the will? Apollo. And you were there so many times, and we're visiting. Right? But one thing he said, after everything was said and done, and it's not, it did not have made it into the will, but it's on the recording because it's like the will's been done, and then he's reflecting a little more and giving like, you can say final, it was like a summary on that day, but it's like a summary as well. And he said, everyone has some fault. Little or big. He said, that is not the question. Like to be or to not to be, that is the question. He said, everyone has some fault, little or big, that is not the question. He said, but who is, I forget the exact word, not just faithful, but full servitor. Right? I have it written down. I may not be able to find it quickly. Fully serving. He's saying, who is a full servitor? That has to be recognized, acknowledged, praised, accepted. So he's saying, not that this person has this fault, this person has very big faults, they have a few faults. He's saying, that is not, everyone has something like that. He's saying, but who is fully serving, right? Who is a full, faithful servitor, that has to be recognized and appreciated and respected. That was almost like his final words on the subject. And we see this mutual appreciation between Srila Gurudev, Srila Guru Maharaj, and Srila Prabhupada. Each one praising the good qualities of the other. And we're told that is Vaishnavism proper. So as we, on a day like this, we sing their praise, we're remembering Srila Prabhupada and realizing it is through him that all of us, anyone who has a connection with either Srila Gurudev or Srila Guru Maharaj or all, it's only through Srila Prabhupada that this extreme good fortune has come to us. Right? Without his agency, without him indicating Srila Guru Maharaj, we would have not recognized that, and subsequently Srila Gurudev. So everyone has some special debt to him. And Srila Gurudev would say, as he's traveling around the world and being greeted by the devotees, what with their flowers and tears, he said, and he would afterwards reflect and say, we're still taking Swami Maharaj as prasad. Like he's giving him that's why all these people have showed up. It's his mercy. And when everyone showed up on Guru Maharaj's doorstep, he said, oh, where are you going to find a better friend than Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj? Like even, he's not here personally, he's engaging me in preaching to so many. Muhammad could not go to the mountain came to Muhammad. So they're the two biggest appreciators of Srila Prabhupada, Swami Maharaj, are none other than Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev. And it's through them that our devotion to Srila Prabhupada expanded and increased, and we understood further his greatness and glories and his incomparable service to Srila Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, and the line of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. Now saying, Ye Anilo Premadana.
Presentation of Sri Lekadidi and Kumkum Devi Dasi. Jai.
Swami, Sri, Bhaktivedanta, Prabhupadaya, Te Namaha, Urvakyam, Shirasi, Ritva, Shaktavesha, Swarupine, Hare Krishneti,
Hare Krishneti,
Mantrena,
Mantrena,
Paschatya,
Paschatya,
Prastya,
Prastya,
Tarine,
Tarine,
Vishvacharya,
Vishvacharya,
Prabharjaya,
Prabharjaya,
Divya Korunya,
Vidyakurunya,
Murteye,
Murtaye,
Sri Bhagavata,
Sri Bhagavata,
Madhurja,
Madhurya,
Gita Jnana,
Gita Jnana,
Pradayine,
Pradayine,
Gaura,
Gaura,
Sri Rupa Siddhanta,
Sri Rupa Siddhanta,
Saraswati,
Saraswati,
Nishevine,
Nishevine,
Radha Krishna,
Radha Krishna,
Kadamboja,
Kadamboja,
Vringaya,
Vringaya,
Gurave,
Gurave,
Namaha,
Namaha.
Jai His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Hero Bhav Mahamahotava Titi
Jai.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara